Ladies and gentlemen, there is a woman. You don't know her name and she doesn't seek applause. She walks alone, not because she wants to, but because sometimes life demands it. Life does not ask politely. It imposes. It demands that you choose between resentment and responsibility. You see, in life, suffering is not optional. It's baked into the very structure of existence. Pain, loss, betrayal, and chaos, these are the landscapes we must traverse. But there's something unique about the woman who stands alone against it. She's the one who does not flinch when life unveils its harshest truths. She sees suffering as an invitation, not a punishment, but an opportunity to become something more. Life is suffering. That's the fundamental truth. It is harsh, unrelenting, and indifferent to your wishes. This is something we all must face, the unavoidable weight of existence itself. You are not special in your suffering. You are merely human. And yet, when confronted with this truth, when the chaos of the world reveals its brutal reality, there is a choice. It's a choice so subtle it often goes unnoticed, and yet it determines the entire trajectory of a person's life. You can choose resentment, or you can choose responsibility. What is resentment? Resentment is anger at the unfairness of life. It's a poison that seeps into your soul when you dwell on what has been done to you, on what has been taken from you, or on how unjustly the world has treated you. You feel victimized, you feel cheated, and you tell yourself stories to justify it, how others have it easier, how the world is stacked against you, how there's no point in trying because fate has already decided against you. Resentment is seductive. It's easy to nurture because it demands nothing from you. It whispers that you have no power. And in doing so, it absolves you of responsibility. It gives you an excuse to remain passive, to wallow, to complain, to blame the world or society or your parents or even existence itself. And when you do this, you feel a twisted sense of satisfaction. You can sit back and declare yourself a victim, safe in the certainty that none of this was your fault. But here's the brutal truth: resentment destroys you. It's not that the world hasn't wronged you. It probably has. Maybe you were betrayed by someone you trusted. Maybe you were born into circumstances that make life an uphill battle from the very beginning. Maybe you've faced losses that others couldn't possibly comprehend. These things happen. They are real, and they are terrible. But what do you do next? Do you allow that unfairness to define you? Do you give it permission to fester inside you, turning you bitter, envious, and angry? Because here's the danger: resentment doesn't just sit there quietly. It grows. It transforms you into someone you don't recognize, someone who sabotages their own potential, someone who lashes out at others, someone who becomes consumed by hate. And the worst part, the very thing you resent becomes the thing you are chained to. You become a slave to the bitterness, and in doing so, you lose the ability to act. Responsibility, on the other hand, is the antidote to resentment. It is not easy. In fact, it's the most difficult thing you can do, which is why so many people refuse it. Responsibility means looking at your suffering, your failures, your unfair circumstances, and saying, I will carry this burden anyway. It is the willingness to act, to shoulder the weight of life, even when it feels unbearable. When you take responsibility, you reclaim your power. Responsibility is what happens when you stop pointing fingers outward and begin looking inward. It's when you stop asking, who did this to me, and start asking, what can I do about it? Those are two very different questions. The first traps you in helplessness. The second frees you to act. There is no courage in resentment. There is no strength in blaming others or feeling sorry for yourself. Courage is found in responsibility, when you confront the world as it is, with all its cruelty and unfairness, and decide to bear the burden of existence anyway. It's not because the burden is light, it's because there is no other way to move forward. Imagine this: you are standing at the edge of a vast, dark forest. That forest represents the chaos of life, the unknown, the suffering, the uncertainty. Resentment tells you to turn back. It tells you to curse the forest for existing. Why me? It cries. Why should I have to go through this? And so you stand there paralyzed, refusing to take even a single step forward. But the forest doesn't care. It doesn't shrink or disappear just because you refuse to enter it. Responsibility, on the other hand, tells you something different. It tells you to take a breath, square your shoulders, and step into the darkness, not because it's fair, not because it's easy, but because that's what must be done. Responsibility is the refusal to let chaos win. It's the decision to act in spite of your fear, in spite of your suffering, in spite of the overwhelming unfairness of it all. And something miraculous happens when you do this. The burden doesn't necessarily get lighter. Life is still suffering, after all, but you become stronger, Responsibility transforms you. It turns you into someone who can bear the load. It gives your life meaning, and meaning is the only thing that makes suffering bearable. The person who refuses responsibility will always be at the mercy of life. They will blame the world for their misfortune while sitting powerless in the ruins of their own making. The person who chooses responsibility, however, becomes someone to be reckoned with. They may still suffer, but they do so willingly, and that willingness gives them strength. So responsibility or resentment, these are the choices you face. It doesn't matter what's been done to you. It doesn't matter how unfair life has been. You can't control the world, but you can control how you respond to it. You can carry the weight willingly, or you can let it crush you. And make no mistake, if you refuse responsibility, life will find a way to punish you for it. The chaos will only grow larger. The suffering will only become heavier. Resentment will consume you, and you will become bitter, weak, and resentful. Responsibility, though it offers a path forward, it's the only real alternative to despair. And it's not just about you. When you take responsibility, you don't just improve your own life. You become a better parent, a better friend, a better citizen. You contribute to the order of the world rather than adding to its chaos. This is the choice you must make: resentment or responsibility. One leads to bitterness and decay, the other leads to strength, meaning, and transformation. And the choice is yours to make, whether you like it or not. If you want to be strong and healthy, you must sacrifice the comfort of staying in bed and eating whatever you want. You sacrifice ease, comfort, and indulgence today so that you can have strength, energy, and health tomorrow. The cost is high. It requires effort, discipline, and consistency, but the reward is worth it. The same principle applies to every aspect of life. If you want a successful career, you must sacrifice time, energy, and perhaps even relationships to master your craft. If you want deep, meaningful relationships, you must sacrifice your ego, your selfishness, and your unwillingness to compromise. If you want inner peace, you must sacrifice the need to constantly chase external validation and distractions. Growth, success, and transformation all require sacrifice because they demand that you give up the parts of yourself that are holding you back. But sacrifice isn't just about what you give up, it's also about what you become in the process. When you sacrifice comfort, you gain resilience. When you sacrifice time for learning, you gain knowledge. When you sacrifice indulgence, you gain discipline. Sacrifice transforms you because it forces you to confront the parts of yourself that are weak, lazy, or afraid. It is an act of voluntary suffering that makes you stronger, sharper, and more capable of facing life's challenges. What happens if you refuse to sacrifice? Nothing. Or worse, things get worse. If you refuse to sacrifice now, you are simply pushing the cost into the future. Neglect your health and you'll pay the price with illness later. Ignore your responsibilities and chaos will eventually consume your life. Refuse to work toward your goals and you'll wake up one day filled with regret, realizing that you squandered your potential. Avoiding sacrifice does not spare you from suffering, it only trades one form of suffering for another. The key, then, is to choose your sacrifice wisely. Sacrifice the things that hold you back, the habits that weaken you, and the comforts that keep you from growing. Sacrifice your excuses, your procrastination, and your avoidance of responsibility. Sacrifice the person you are today so that you can become the person you could be tomorrow. This is not an easy task. Sacrifice requires courage because it demands that you act without guarantees. You may work hard, give up comfort, and still face failure. You may sacrifice relationships to pursue your ambitions and find yourself alone for a time. The path of sacrifice is steep, and the rewards are often delayed. But what is the alternative? To settle, to accept mediocrity, to watch as your potential slips through your fingers while you cling to fleeting pleasures and distractions. Consider what happens to someone who refuses to sacrifice. They cling to the safety of the familiar, even when it's destroying them. They stay in the job they hate because they fear the discomfort of change. They avoid the gym because they fear the temporary pain of exercise. They let relationships wither because they're unwilling to sacrifice their pride. They trade long-term meaning for short-term comfort, and they pay for it with bitterness, regret, and a life half-lived. The person who chooses sacrifice, however, transforms. They become someone who can face hardship and persevere. They develop discipline, resilience, and purpose. They become someone capable of carrying the weight of their life and helping others do the same. They sacrifice what is easy and meaningless for what is hard but meaningful. And in doing so, they become more capable, more fulfilled, and more alive. Sacrifice is not about punishment. It is not about deprivation for its own sake. It is about aligning your actions with your values, choosing meaning over comfort, and giving up what is holding you back so that you can build something better. It is about voluntarily walking into discomfort, uncertainty, and struggle because you know that the cost of staying the same is far greater. So sacrifice is not just a price you pay, it is an investment. It is the act of trading the present for a better future. It is the process through which you shed the parts of yourself that no longer serve you so that you can become someone stronger, wiser, and more capable. Every act of sacrifice is a step toward transformation, and every step brings you closer to the person you are meant to be. In the end, the path toward growth, meaning, and transformation is not an easy one. It demands sacrifice, solitude, responsibility, and the courage to confront life's chaos head-on. These principles are not merely abstract ideals, but timeless truths that govern every significant human achievement. The hero's journey, which each of us must face, is deeply personal, and it always begins alone. No one else can fight your battles, endure your suffering, or carry your burdens for you. But it is through this struggle, through the sacrifices you make, the chaos you confront, and the solitude you endure that you discover your true strength. You transform into someone capable of bearing the weight of existence and contributing meaningfully to the world. You emerge not broken by suffering, but sharpened by it, as someone who can face adversity without resentment, take responsibility without hesitation, and order their life into something of value. This is the ultimate purpose of the journey: to become more than you were, to fulfill your potential, and to bring something meaningful back to the world. It is a difficult road, but it is the only road worth walking. The cost is high, but the reward, the life of purpose, strength, and significance that awaits you is infinitely greater. Ning and transformation. And the choice is yours to make, whether you like it or not. Life is fundamentally chaotic. Chaos is the unknown. It's what happens when everything you've carefully constructed falls apart. It's the terrifying reality lurking behind the walls of your structured life. No matter how much you plan, no matter how much order you try to impose, there will always be an element of unpredictability. Chaos doesn't knock politely, it crashes through the door when you least expect it. It shows up as illness, loss, failure, betrayal. Sometimes it's even self-inflicted. It's in those moments when the ground beneath you collapses that you are confronted with a choice. Do you let the chaos consume you, or do you take responsibility for it and start to create order? Now, what does it mean to order your chaos? To begin with, it's important to understand that chaos exists on every level of life, from the world at large to the intimate workings of your own mind. It's in the disarray of your surroundings, the confusion of your relationships, the lack of direction in your goals, and the turmoil within your soul. If you want to reclaim control of your life, you must confront that chaos directly, not all at once, but incrementally, beginning with the smallest, most tangible pieces. You see, chaos thrives in neglect. It grows in the spaces you refuse to confront, like the messy room you keep avoiding or the unfinished tasks that gnaw at the back of your mind. It's in the argument you haven't resolved, the responsibilities you've been dodging, the habits you know are destructive but continue to indulge. These small pockets of chaos might seem insignificant on their own, but they accumulate. Each neglected piece adds to the overwhelming burden, creating an ever-expanding darkness that threatens to consume you entirely. And so, you must begin somewhere. You must pick the smallest corner of the chaos and bring it into order. This can seem laughably trivial at first. Why clean your room when your entire life is falling apart? Why organize your schedule when your future feels hopeless? Why take responsibility for your diet when everything else is in shambles? But here's the truth: order starts with the smallest possible action. You cannot confront the entire world at once, but you can make one small part of it better. Imagine you're standing in a cluttered, messy room. It's overwhelming. You don't know where to start. You can't think clearly because the chaos surrounding you mirrors the chaos inside your mind. But then you decide to clean one shelf. You remove the dust, organize the books, and set things straight. Suddenly, that one little corner of the world is better. It's no longer chaotic. And something interesting happens. You feel a little better, too. Your mind clears just a bit. The room looks slightly less overwhelming. And now you realize you can clean another shelf and then another. The act of creating order in one small place has a ripple effect. It's not just about the physical space you've tidied, it's about the psychological transformation that happens in the process. You begin to realize that chaos can be conquered not all at once, but piece by piece. And as you gain control over one part of your life, you start to believe that you can take control of other parts as well. But ordering your chaos requires honesty, and honesty is painful. It requires that you admit the role you've played in allowing chaos to grow. Maybe your finances are a disaster because you've avoided looking at your bills. Maybe your relationships are strained because you haven't been honest with yourself or others. Maybe your health is suffering because you've been too undisciplined to take care of yourself. These are hard truths to face, but they are necessary. You cannot bring order to the chaos if you refuse to see it for what it is. So you start small and you take responsibility for the chaos you can manage. If your room is a mess, clean it. If your finances are out of control, open the bills. If you're lost and overwhelmed, write down the things you need to do and organize them into a list. This sounds simple, but it's not easy. It's not easy because chaos resists order. The moment you decide to take control, the part of you that thrives on avoidance, procrastination, and fear will fight back. It will tell you that it doesn't matter, that it's too late, that it's hopeless. But the truth is, it does matter. Ordering one small piece of your life is not insignificant. It's the first step toward reclaiming yourself. It's the proof you need that you are not powerless in the face of chaos. It's the realization that the darkness can be pushed back one small action at a time. And here's something else to consider when you bring order to the chaos in your immediate environment. You set an example for yourself and for others. If you clean your room, you might inspire someone else to clean theirs. If you take control of your habits, you might show someone else that it's possible to do the same. This isn't about being perfect, it's about being better. It's about choosing progress over stagnation, responsibility over avoidance. You must also understand that creating order is not a one-time task, it's a continuous process. Chaos is always lurking, ready to return the moment you let your guard down. That's why discipline is essential. You don't just clean your room once you clean it every day. You don't just confront your fears once you confront them every time they arise. Ordering your chaos is an ongoing battle, and the cost of neglect is high. If you fail to take responsibility for the small things, the chaos will grow. It will spread into every area of your life until it becomes so overwhelming that you feel paralyzed. This is how people end up lost. This is how they lose hope, by allowing small problems to snowball into insurmountable crises. But if you start small, if you bring just one corner of your life into order, you begin to see that chaos is not unbeatable. You discover that you are capable of creating structure, stability, and meaning, even in the midst of uncertainty. And once you've proven this to yourself, you can begin to tackle bigger challenges. The world is chaotic, your life is chaotic, but within that chaos lies an opportunity, the opportunity to create order, to take responsibility, and to build something better, one small step at a time. Solitude is a concept that many people misunderstand. They confuse it with loneliness, which is an entirely different state. Loneliness is an unwanted separation. It is the feeling of being cut off from others, of being unseen, unheard, and unloved. Loneliness is despairing and hollow. It breaks the spirit. But solitude, true solitude, is something far more profound. Solitude is a chosen state, one in which you deliberately stand apart, confront yourself, and face the uncomfortable truths that emerge when the distractions of the world fall silent. It is a place of reflection, growth, and transformation. Solitude can be terrifying, but within that terror lies the seed of strength. Why is solitude important? Because the most significant battles you will fight in life are fought alone. Your fears, your failures, your insecurities, no one can face these for you. No one can navigate the darkness within your own soul. When you stand in solitude, you are stripped of all the noise, all the excuses, and all the crutches that distract you from who you really are. And that is precisely where strength is forged. You must learn to be alone with yourself, to confront your thoughts and your emotions, no matter how painful or chaotic they may be. For many people, the thought of solitude is unbearable. They fear silence because silence exposes them. It strips away the distractions that protect them from the truth of their own existence. When you're alone, there's no one left to blame, no one to impress, and no one to comfort you. You can no longer run from yourself. This is why people cling so desperately to constant activity, noise, and stimulation. They are afraid of what they might discover if they were to sit quietly and truly listen to themselves. But avoiding solitude is a dangerous game. It is in solitude that you come to understand who you truly are. It is where you confront your weaknesses, your fears, and your shortcomings, and where you begin to strengthen yourself in response. Solitude allows you to ask the hard questions that most people spend their lives avoiding. Am I living in alignment with my values? Am I moving towards something meaningful? Or am I drifting aimlessly? What am I afraid of and why? What must I change to become better? These questions are uncomfortable because they reveal truths you may not want to face. Maybe you've been dishonest with yourself about your ambitions or your relationships. Maybe you've neglected your health, avoided responsibilities, or indulged in habits that harm you. Solitude doesn't let you hide from these things. It forces you to look at them, acknowledge them, and take responsibility for them. And this confrontation is painful. It is a form of voluntary suffering, but through this suffering, you gain clarity. Strength emerges when you endure solitude without flinching. It's easy to find comfort in the presence of others. It's easy to drown out your doubts and insecurities with social interaction, entertainment, or endless distractions. But the comfort of distraction is fleeting. It doesn't resolve the chaos inside you. It merely postpones the moment when you will have to face it. Solitude, on the other hand, is not comfortable. It is raw, unfiltered, and honest. But it is also where the real work begins. Consider this: every meaningful transformation in life begins in solitude. Think of the hero in mythology, literature, or even in modern life. The hero must venture into the unknown, often alone. They leave the safety of their familiar world and enter the wilderness, an untamed, threatening place full of chaos and danger. This wilderness is not just a physical landscape, it is also a psychological one. It represents the fears, doubts, and demons lurking within the human soul. The hero confronts this darkness alone because no one else can do it for them. And it is in this solitary struggle that they are transformed. They emerge stronger, wiser, and more capable of facing the world. You too are that hero. The wilderness is inside you, and solitude is the path that leads you there. You may not want to go. You may wish for someone to accompany you, to reassure you, or to fight your battles for you. But no one can do that. Solitude is your responsibility. It is the price you must pay to become the person you are capable of being. The strength you gain in solitude is not the kind of strength that shouts or postures. It is a quiet, unshakable strength that comes from knowing yourself. When you spend time in solitude, you come to understand your limits and your potential. You begin to see where you are weak, and you start to build yourself up. You learn to trust yourself, to rely on your own judgment, and to find peace within your own company. This self-reliance is invaluable because life will not always provide you with a safety net. There will be moments when you are truly alone, when no one else can help you, when the weight of your burdens is yours alone to carry. In those moments, the strength you built in solitude will carry you forward. Solitude also teaches you discipline. It requires that you master your impulses and confront the temptation to distract yourself. When you sit alone, it is easy to reach for your phone, turn on the television, or escape into some other form of stimulation. But if you resist that impulse, if you allow yourself to simply be, you begin to build discipline. You learn to tolerate discomfort, to endure silence, and to focus your mind. These are not small things. They are the foundation of strength, resilience, and clarity. In solitude, you also gain perspective. The world is loud and chaotic, filled with competing demands and constant distractions. It's easy to lose yourself in the noise, to forget what matters, to lose sight of your goals, or to be swayed by the opinions of others. Solitude gives you the space to step back, to think deeply, and to reconnect with what is meaningful. It allows you to tune out the noise and listen to the quiet voice inside you that knows what is true. The people who are strongest, who are most capable of withstanding life's hardships, are the ones who have spent time alone. They have wrestled with their fears, faced their doubts, and built themselves up from the inside out. They are not dependent on the approval of others or the comforts of distraction because they have found strength within themselves. Solitude has prepared them for the storms of life in a way that nothing else can. So solitude is not a punishment. It is not something to be feared or avoided. It is a gift, a tool, and a teacher. It is the place where strength is born, not strength that comes from others, but strength that comes from within. The hero's journey is a story as old as time itself. It appears in myth, legend, and literature across every culture. From ancient epics to modern tales, the structure remains the same. The hero is called to adventure, forced to confront chaos, and ultimately transformed. But at the heart of every hero's journey lies a difficult, inescapable truth: the journey is always taken alone. The hero might be surrounded by allies, mentors, or companions for parts of the way, but the defining moments, the moments of real transformation, are faced in solitude. Why is this the case? Because the essence of the hero's journey is not the adventure itself, but the internal transformation that happens through struggle and confrontation. No one can walk that path for you. No one can face the darkness inside you, fight your battles, or endure your suffering. At the deepest level, every person's journey is their own. This is an uncomfortable truth because human beings are social creatures. We crave connection, reassurance, and guidance. We are drawn to the idea that someone will save us, carry us, or show us the way. And while guidance and companionship are valuable, they are not enough. There comes a point in every life where you must step away from the crowd and venture into the unknown alone. That is the point where transformation begins. Think of the mythological heroes. In every great story, there comes a moment when the hero must leave behind everything familiar and confront the unknown. Take Odysseus, who is stripped of his crew and left to navigate the chaos of the sea alone. Take Frodo in The Lord of the Rings, who must bear the weight of the ring through the barren wasteland of Mordor. Even in modern storytelling, this principle holds. Luke Skywalker must face Darth Vader not with his friends, but by himself. Harry Potter faces Voldemort alone in the final confrontation. These stories resonate with us because they reflect a universal truth: there are battles in life that you cannot share with anyone else. You might have mentors who prepare you, friends who support you, and companions who accompany you for parts of the journey, but the final step, the step that determines who you will become, is always taken alone. What does this look like in real life? It looks like standing up for yourself when no one else will. It looks like pursuing a dream when everyone around you doubts you. It looks like facing grief, loss, and failure without anyone to hold your hand. It looks like acknowledging the chaos in your life and taking responsibility for it, even when it feels unbearable. The hero's journey begins with a call to adventure, and this call is never easy. It often comes in the form of crisis: the loss of a loved one, the failure of a relationship, a career falling apart, or an illness that forces you to re-examine everything you thought you knew. The call pulls you away from the safety of the known world and thrusts you into the unknown. This is where the loneliness begins. You may try to resist, to cling to comfort and familiarity, but the call does not relent. To ignore it is to stagnate, to decay, and to become bitter. If you accept the call, you enter the wilderness, a place of uncertainty, chaos, and suffering. This is the metaphorical belly of the beast, where everything you rely on is stripped away. It's the point where you realize that no one can save you. This is where many people falter. They look around, hoping for someone to come and rescue them, but no one comes. The friends, the mentors, the comforts of life, they can only do so much. This moment is your moment, and it must be faced alone. Solitude in the wilderness is where the transformation occurs. It is in solitude that you confront your deepest fears, insecurities, and weaknesses. These are the dragons of your psyche, the chaos within you that must be overcome. And the dragons are not external foes, they are parts of yourself. They are your resentment, your bitterness, your fear of failure, your avoidance of responsibility, your self-doubt. They are the forces that hold you back from becoming who you are capable of being. When you face these dragons alone, you change. You become stronger because you have seen the darkness within yourself and refuse to be consumed by it. You learn that you are capable of enduring far more than you imagined. You develop courage, not the absence of fear, but the willingness to act in spite of it. You gain wisdom because you have suffered, reflected on that suffering, and emerged with a deeper understanding of yourself and the world. This transformation is what makes you a hero. It is not the victory over external enemies or the achievement of some grand goal. It is the internal shift that happens when you face your battles alone. You become someone who can bear the weight of existence, who can take responsibility for their life, and who can face the chaos of the world without flinching. It is important to note that solitude does not mean isolation. The hero does not reject connection. They simply recognize that there are parts of the journey that must be faced alone. There will be mentors along the way, people who offer guidance, wisdom, and encouragement. There will be allies, friends, and companions who walk alongside you for a time, but the mentors cannot fight your battles, and the allies cannot carry your burden. They can support you, but they cannot transform you. That is your responsibility alone. The loneliness of the hero's journey is what gives it meaning. If transformation were easy, if someone else could do it for you, it would have no value. Strength is not handed to you, it is earned through struggle. Courage is not given, it is forged in the fire of adversity. Meaning is not found in comfort, it is discovered in the willingness to face suffering voluntarily. This is why the hero's journey is always alone. It is your path, your battle, your transformation. No one can walk it for you. The strength you gain in solitude is yours alone, and it is that strength that enables you to return to the world as someone who can make a difference. In the end, the hero does not resent the solitude. They embrace it because they understand that it is the price of growth. To become who you are capable of being, you must face the journey alone, step into the unknown, and confront the dragons that no one else can see. It is the only way to transform, to grow, and to become the hero of your own life. Sacrifice is one of the oldest ideas in human existence, woven into the very fabric of what it means to grow, transform, and succeed. At its core, sacrifice is the deliberate act of giving up something valuable in the present to gain something even more meaningful in the future. It is the recognition that life demands a price for every significant achievement, and if you refuse to pay it, you remain exactly where you are, unchanged, unfulfilled, and stagnant. Sacrifice is the bridge between who you are and who you could become. To understand sacrifice, you first have to accept a fundamental truth about existence. Life is not fair, and it is not free. Every meaningful pursuit comes at a cost. If you want to succeed, if you want to grow, if you want to become more than you are today, you must give up something now. That's the deal. You cannot have everything at once, and you cannot avoid the price. You can only choose what to sacrifice and when. This idea is embedded in the deepest layers of human psychology and culture. The ancient stories and myths are full of examples. In the Bible, Abraham is willing to sacrifice what he values most, his son, because he understands that true faith and commitment require the willingness to give up something precious. In older cultures, sacrifices to the gods were seen as necessary to ensure survival, prosperity, and harmony. People intuitively understood that nothing of value is gained without something being given up in return. Today, we've distanced ourselves from this ancient understanding of sacrifice. We live in a culture that encourages immediate gratification. The idea of giving up something in the present for a future payoff is often met with resistance. Why endure hardship now when you could distract yourself with pleasure, entertainment, or comfort? Why make sacrifices when you could blame the world for your lack of progress? But here's the reality: you are always sacrificing something, whether you realize it or not. If you sacrifice your time now to pursue your education or improve your skills, you're giving up leisure, entertainment, or short-term pleasures. If you refuse to make that sacrifice, you're sacrificing your potential, your growth, and your ability to improve your life. Either way, a cost is being paid. The question is not whether you will sacrifice, but whether you will sacrifice wisely. This is where the concept of delayed gratification becomes critical. Delayed gratification is the ability to resist short-term temptations to achieve a long-term goal. It is the cornerstone of success. Take a simple example: physical fitness.